to lead us in some reflections and wisdom on our Lenten journey here. Lots of folks will know Josh and know what a treat it is, what wisdom and presence he brings to our community and stuff. And so, Josh, is that cool? Is that good there? Okay, I'm gonna totally eat some love feast here. Cool. So whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you. It's great to be able to come and worship and speak with all of you despite circumstances. For anyone that's watching that doesn't know me, my name is Josh, and I grew up in the church, but it was always sort of a confusing time for me. I never really understood Lent. A lot of the message I got in church was sort of pointing to Easter and looking at Jesus on the cross with messages about being like Jesus. See how he died for others. What are you gonna do for others? What are you willing to do? And the message on the flip side, however, about sort of improving yourself and giving things up, it was never really as present, whether it be that it wasn't focused on, or maybe I just didn't understand it, or it just didn't speak to me, but I never really came away from church or even other Christian activities around Lent with that sort of message of improving yourself. So while people did things like fast and give up chocolate and all these other Lenten practices, I never really understood why they were doing them, or sort of how it related to being a better Christian, specifically like being more like Jesus and saving others. And sort of as I got older, especially since coming to university, I noticed more and more of a sort of problem with that sort of mindset. And I'm not talking about like a whole savior complex that some people or Christians tend to have. I'm sure we could all have a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to go down that road. So rather I want to make things a little more personal, because a theme I've noticed throughout my time as a Christian is that we've become so focused on being good to others, making the world a better place, focusing on issues of social justice and, caring for the poor, while all very good and very important things that we should definitely be focusing on as Christians. There's something that often gets left behind, or something that we often forget, and that's ourselves. The church has always promoted messages of good things, patience, kindness, goodness, kind of like the fruits of the Spirit, right? Except these things, at least in my experiences, have always been sort of for others, be patient with others, be kind to others, be good to others. And wanting to be a good Christian, I sort of tried to make that the focus of my life. However, I never really heard about treating yourself with kindness and being good to yourself, being patient with yourself. So I never really made an effort to show like these things to myself. And then when I was around 12, I came up with sort of simple view of Christianity, or a simple goal of being a Christian that was sort of guided by these principles, and that was to love everybody. And it's actually probably one of the few things in my Christian life that hasn't changed to this day. I still hold that goal. But despite having it for most of my life, I was really bad at it, and that's likely because I forgot to include somebody. I sort of forgot to love somebody, arguably the most important person, being myself. Now, Andrew, you didn't know me 4 or 5 years ago. I don't think many people on live stream knew me 4 or 5 years ago, but you probably wouldn't recognize me. I was sort of a complete mess. My life was defined by depression, self-harm, suicidal ideation. I really didn't want to live anymore. And I can sort of contribute that to my mindset of living for others. That's how I thought you were a good Christian, if you gave up everything and you lived for other people. And as a result, I not only thought of myself as worthless, but I was really bad at helping and caring for others, the very thing I'd sort of set my focus up on. Often I wasn't really strong enough to put my full self into things, and I struggled to really connect with other people. It's really hard to see the light in others when you can't even see it in yourself. The worst moment of my life was having a friend who I really cared for, and someone who really relied on me, reach out to me in a time of need, and out of my own weakness, not being able to be there for them. Now, thankfully, that friend is doing better now, and that experience is probably one of the things that initiated my sort of journey on self-love and self-compassion. And while that journey was not easy and not short, in fact, I'm still probably on it today, it has been one of the most important journeys of my life. And for me, it involves a lot of different things. So at first, it really involved sort of taking control of my life, being like Esther, who we talked about earlier in the year. Not just sort of being a passive recipient of what life throws at you, but going out and grabbing life and taking it, responsibility for the things that are in your life so that you can have the power to change them. It involves giving myself time to truly rest so that I have energy to give and so that I will always be able to support the weight of others who need somebody to lean on. And it involves community and friends. It is something that at the end of the day that you have to do for yourself, but friends and community always helps, and it always will help. It's something that will always benefit from the support of others. And lastly, it involves a lot of hard work and self-care. But it's worth the work. It definitely is. There are some amazing things that happen when you start to treat yourself with love and compassion. It will transform your world. And I know that's a pretty bold claim, and since we're at a university, I can't really make a claim like that without backing it up. Think of it sort of like this. You know those Rorschach ink blot tests? They used to be used in sort of like psychological evaluations. They're kind of outdated now, but they're essentially just these pictures that were just random ink blobs splattered on a page, and you're supposed to look at it and see if you see anything in it. And so we each sort of see the same thing, the same blobs, right? The same stimulus is going to enter our eyes, yet we each see something in those ink blobs, and we each see something different. So if we each see something different, yet we're each seeing the same blobs, then the difference must come not from the blobs, but from us, right? Us, like our expectations and us, our minds, completely define how we see and interact with the world. Each of us is like our own lens through which we see the world. So by treating ourselves with love and compassion, we also fill this lens with love and compassion. What better way to see the world, to see God in the world? What better way to be like Jesus? What better way to treat others and to see others than with a lens of love? Now, one of the most profound things I noticed when I started filling my lens with love was that my ability to see God in things just really burst forth. In ordinary, everyday things, like the beautiful weather that we're having despite everything, and maybe the color purple that's always so present around Lent. Or in other people, seeing the light in others became so much easier. Or even sometimes seeing God in myself. And I think that's a really important thing to do in this day and age. I mean, right now we're holed up in the prayer room of Wraithby because some epidemic is going on, and things like global warming, which used to be in the forefront of our thoughts as things we're worried about, are now like in the back, right? It's a scary time, but that makes being able to recognize these moments all the more important and all the more precious, right? And we're in Lent right now too, right? Which is about seeing that even in the darkness, even in the fear, God is there and God is with us. And now, since we're in sort of a dark time right now, I'd like to leave you with one of my favorite memories that always helps brighten my day. So during my journey of self-love, one of the practices I partook in was finding the good in every day. So just one thing or one moment that maybe sparked joy or brought me a sense of love, something I saw God in that day. And one day I had one of these moments that I will probably never forget for the rest of my life. It was one of those crisp fall days, the ones where the leaves are falling beautifully around you and crunching underneath your feet. And the air is just like a little bit sharp and cold with the coming winter. And I was on my way to the bus stop in the morning, and I passed this little old lady out on her porch. And she was wrapped tightly in her bathrobe, and she had little bunny slippers on her feet. And she was calling out to her beloved pet, "Mr. Puffles, Mr. Puffles." And it just filled me with this overwhelming sense of happiness and joy and love. I don't think I've ever seen God so clearly as in that moment. So let me end with this. Take care of yourself. If you're going to do something for Lent this year, maybe partake in a practice that will help you care for yourself just a little bit better. Because remember, you are the most important person in your life.